There's a moment before the decision, before the leap, before you speak, before you move. That defines everything. It's not loud. It's not cinematic. It's microscopic. It's chemical. It's neural. It's biological. But in that moment, you either act or you don't. And your brain is always watching which one you choose. Every time you hesitate, your nervous system learns that delay is safer than forward motion. But here's the truth. Inaction has a cost. The circuits that drive ambition, courage, resilience, they don't just exist. They're sculpted by use. If you don't step forward, those circuits decay. They literally shrink. Your brain adapts to comfort. But when you act, when you lean in, when you take the risk, you signal your biology to change. You trigger neurochemicals that wire you for more action. You build momentum not by motivation, but by movement. And here's what's fascinating. Your visual system is your steering wheel. What you look at controls your internal state. Want to feel alert? Narrow your focus. Lock your eyes on one point. That shift tells your brain, we're hunting. We're here. We're ready. The same is true for stress. You've been told to avoid it, but the right amount of stress, the kind that comes with effort and challenge, is actually your edge. That's where growth lives. Your system is built to rise under pressure. You were never meant to be numb. You were built to adapt. And dopamine, it's not the reward chemical. It's the pursuit chemical. It's what makes you keep going when it's hard, what makes the journey itself addicting. You can train your mind to release it during effort, not after. That's how you fall in love with the grind. That's how you beat the quit reflex. So before you say, I'll wait, before you say, I'm not ready, remember your brain is always learning. Every moment you choose discomfort over ease, challenge over safety, you're not just becoming stronger, you're becoming wired for greatness. Don't wait. The system that creates your future is online now. Watch what you do before you move. That's where everything begins. You said, the way you see the world is not just about your eyes. It's about your brain interpreting what those eyes take in. Vision and attention are not passive. They're active systems that shape your internal state. Where you place your focus affects your level of alertness, your emotional state, and even your physiological readiness to act. This is not philosophy, it's neurobiology. Your visual system is deeply connected to your brainstem, the part of your brain responsible for autonomic responses like heart rate, breathing, and wakefulness. When you narrow your gaze and lock your eyes on a specific point, you activate circuits that increase alertness and prepare your body for movement. This is a primitive but powerful system evolved to help us track prey, avoid danger, and execute with precision. It still works the same way, whether you're facing a wild animal or preparing for a critical conversation. When you take a panoramic view, when you allow your eyes to go wide and soft, something else happens. Your system begins to downshift. You start to relax. Your breathing slows. This broad field of vision tells your brain that you're safe, that there's no immediate threat, that it's okay to ease up. This has powerful implications. If you're feeling overwhelmed, shifting your eyes to a wider frame can literally signal your nervous system to calm down. It's not about thinking your way into relaxation. It's about using the mechanics of attention to guide your biology into a more grounded state. This is a tool available to you at any time. You don't need a new app, a change in environment, or an external motivation. You only need to control your focus, and yet most people never learn how to use it. They let their attention be hijacked by noise, distraction, or the momentum of external demands. But the truth is, attention is one of the only domains you fully control. It is the entry point for deliberate action. If you want to change your state, your performance, or your behavior, start with where your eyes are and what they're doing. Sustained attention to a single point increases activity in brain regions tied to effort and persistence. When you hold your gaze on a task, your brain begins to allocate more resources to completing it. It's not magic. It's the way the attentional system amplifies goal-directed behavior. Athletes, performers, and high-level thinkers use this without even realizing it. They're not just focused. They're using their eyes to prime their bodies and minds for performance. You can do the same. The longer you hold attention in one direction, the more you teach your brain what matters. This is how goals are encoded at the neural level, not through vague affirmations, but through directed visual and cognitive focus. Your visual system is not just sensing the world. It's instructing your brain on what to value, what to prepare for, and what to ignore. Focus is not just mental effort. It is physical alignment between perception, intention, and execution. Your brain is not a fixed machine. It is a living, adapting system that constantly reshapes itself based on what you do, what you think, and what you repeat. This process is called neuroplasticity, the ability of the brain to change its structure and function in response to experience. But neuroplasticity isn't always positive. It doesn't care whether you're building good habits or bad ones. It only cares about frequency and intensity. What you do consistently becomes easier to do again, not because of willpower or character, but because your brain literally lays down new wiring to support it. Repetition is how the brain learns what matters. Every time you repeat an action, fire a thought, or engage in a specific behavior, you activate particular neural circuits. The more often those circuits fire, the more myelinated they become. Myelin is like insulation on electrical wire. It allows the signal to travel faster and more efficiently. This is how skills become second nature, how behaviors become automatic, and how thought patterns turn into reflexes. The first time you try something new, it feels awkward and slow. That's not a reflection of your potential. It's simply your brain trying to wire a new pattern. But the second time you do it, and the third and the 10th, those same circuits get refined. They become stronger, faster, more reliable. This means that consistency is more important than intensity. It's not the giant effort once in a while that creates change, the small repeated actions done day after day. Whether you're trying to learn a new language, master a physical skill, or reprogram your mindset, the key is repetition. Every repetition is a signal to your brain. This matters. Build around it. Even when progress feels invisible, even when the work feels redundant, your brain is responding. Under the surface, it's reorganizing itself to make that behavior more natural, more fluid, more ingrained. But there's another layer. Repetition doesn't just reinforce physical movements. It also wires emotion, motivation, and perception. If you repeatedly respond to challenge with fear or withdrawal, your brain will make that response more automatic. If you repeatedly face discomfort with courage and forward motion, it wires that instead. You are not stuck with the way you currently react. Those reactions are the result of past repetitions. They were learned, which means they can be unlearned and replaced through new, repeated action. And this doesn't only apply to behaviors you initiate. It applies to what you expose yourself to. Repeated exposure to positive inputs, inspiring environments, disciplined routines, these all shape your neural architecture. The inputs you allow are just as powerful as the actions you take. If you immerse yourself in distractions, negativity, and passive consumption, those two become embedded through plasticity. Your environment is always feeding your brain instructions about how to adapt, and repetition is the language it listens to. Rewiring the brain is not reserved for the gifted or the extraordinary. It is available to anyone who is willing to do the work again and again. Stress has been given a bad reputation, often portrayed as something to be avoided, minimized, or suppressed. But stress is not inherently harmful. In fact, it's a powerful biological tool designed to enhance your performance, sharpen your focus, and prepare your body and mind for challenge. The nervous system interprets stress as a signal, one that alerts you to rising demands and activates internal resources to meet them. When you feel stress, your body releases adrenaline, cortisol, and other neurochemicals that increase alertness, raise energy levels, and prime your muscles and brain for action. This response isn't a flaw. It's how you were built to engage with difficult tasks and unfamiliar environments. When you learn to associate effort itself with reward, when you start to enjoy the grind, the work, the discomfort of progress, you gain a kind of control most people never tap into. This isn't just mental reframing, it's a neurochemical shift. When the pursuit becomes pleasurable, you're no longer reliant on outcomes to keep moving. You become self-fueling, driven by the very act of showing up and leaning in. There's a compounding effect to this. Every time you choose to pursue something difficult and stay with it, dopamine circuits in the brain become more refined. They begin to expect movement, to associate discomfort with growth, and to reinforce your ability to keep going. You're not just building habits, you're rewiring the reward system of it. This shift is what separates people who rely on motivation from those who rely on discipline. The disciplined individual has trained their dopamine system to find meaning in the work itself. On the flip side, if you only chase external validation, likes, praise, titles, or quick wins, you create a fragile reward system. The brain becomes addicted to short-term spikes in dopamine, and when those are absent, motivation crashes. You lose momentum not because you're incapable, but because the system was never built to sustain long-term effort. True resilience comes from teaching your brain that forward motion is the reward. Every small win, every uncomfortable effort, every moment of persistence becomes a trigger for release. That's how you build a loop that feeds itself. Dopamine becomes not just a fleeting high, but a consistent driver of meaningful progress. You are not at the mercy of your thoughts, your environment, or your past. You are equipped with a system, biological, chemical, and electrical, that is designed to adapt, to grow, and to overcome. Every time you act despite resistance, every time you focus with intention, every time you repeat what matters, you reshape that system. You are training your brain to become a tool, not a cage. Stress becomes fuel, repetition becomes mastery, vision becomes alignment, and dopamine becomes the fire that keeps you moving forward. The power has never been out there, it has always been within. But it only activates when you decide to move. So stop waiting for permission and start creating momentum. Your biology is ready. The question is, are you? Every decision you avoid, every opportunity you delay, every step you don't take, these aren't neutral moments. They carry a weight that most people never realize. There's a biological cost to inaction, and it runs deeper than missed chances or temporary guilt. It affects the very structure of your brain. The human nervous system is not static. It's highly plastic, meaning it rewires itself in response to your behavior. The more you act, the more the circuits related to decision-making, motivation, and action get reinforced. But the opposite is equally true. When you avoid action, when you procrastinate or sit idle, you teach your nervous system that passivity is the default state. That becomes your new baseline. The brain is an efficiency machine. It's not interested in what's ideal. It's interested in what's consistent. If what you consistently do is hesitate, then hesitation becomes easier. The neural pathways that support boldness, risk-taking, and resilience begin to atrophy. Just like a muscle that goes unused, those parts of your brain become weaker. What started as a moment of delay becomes a pattern, and patterns hardwire themselves into your identity. You begin to feel like someone who's just not built for pressure, someone who works better under stress, or someone who's not ready yet. But those stories are just the echo of your nervous system adjusting to chronic inaction. This process isn't abstract, it's measurable. Neuroscientific research shows that the prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for planning and voluntary behavior, can become more or less active depending on how often it's used. If you repeatedly suppress the urge to act, you reduce activation in those areas. Your brain, believing that action is not necessary, begins allocating fewer resources to those circuits. Over time, your capacity for executive function, things like impulse control, goal pursuit, and strategic thinking, diminishes. It's not that you suddenly lack discipline or drive, it's that the wiring that once made those traits possible is no longer firing effectively. But it goes deeper than just misdevelopment. The longer you stay in inaction, the more your brain leans on safety signals. The amygdala, which governs fear and emotional response, becomes more reactive. You start to associate action with risk, discomfort, and threat. Even small tasks begin to feel overwhelming because your brain has adapted to stillness. The absence of challenge has made you more sensitive to it. What once felt manageable now feels dangerous because your system hasn't practiced leaning into discomfort. This creates a self-reinforcing loop. The less you do, the less you feel capable of doing. The harder action becomes, the more your biology encourages avoidance. And yet, the antidote is equally biological. One single act of courage, one moment of forward motion begins to shift the chemistry. You get a small spike of dopamine, a tiny release of norepinephrine. The circuits responsible for motivation light up again. They don't need permission. They need use.